thinks to be a Power 5 guy, you got to just be able to get dudes. That's part of it. But being well-rounded is what got me that job because I cared about coaching. I cared about skill development. I cared about all the things that go into winning. And I got an opportunity at Clemson. And I'll never forget when I showed up at Clemson, I was like, man, I'm this little country dude from Kentucky that just grew up watching this stuff on TV, man. Like, I still got VHS tapes at my house in London, Kentucky from where I taped all these games. And now I get to coach in them. It was like, it doesn't get any better than this. But guess what? You get a little bit more hungry. You want to be a head coach. You start to feel better, like you can be a head coach. So for me to be a head coach, I've told you all about my background. For me to be a head coach, I knew I couldn't go be the head coach at Georgia State right away. They weren't going to give me that job or any place like that. I had to again, just like as an assistant, I had to start at the bottom. So Nicholls State comes open, top 3 lowest budgets in all of America, $1,000 recruiting budget. I was going to take a $90,000 pay cut from being an ACC assistant to go be a Division I head coach. I had one kid, a wife, and another one on the way. And my wife cried like a baby when I told her we were going. Like, miserable. We were going to the swamps, Louisiana. Nobody had won there. They hadn't been to the NCAA tournament since 1998. They had one winning season since 1998. And we went, and I told her, we got to bet on ourselves here. We got to burn the boats. That's our whole thing. That's been my whole thing, my whole coaching career. And we did. And we went down there, and we won the league in year 2. And then I got South Alabama, which was a job that I've always wanted. I've always wanted South Alabama. It's a special place. It's a great place to live. I've always felt like it was a sleeping giant. So right now we're trying to awaken that. And obviously we've had some improvements, but we're not nearly where we need to be. Starting out, this is the 8. And when I started coaching, as I went through all this, these are 8 things that I feel are incredibly important in this profession. And I'm passionate about it. I believe that. But before we start that 8, I want to say this. I went through this whole story about me, right? And it seems like an easy deal. This profession is incredibly hard. I've been blessed. I've been lucky. I've had a lot of help from guys. It's really, really hard. So the question that I have for everybody in here, and I ask my team the same thing. I ask anybody that works with me on my staff the same thing, is how much does this mean to you? How passionate are you about this? Because some people just do it to do it. Probably 40% of coaches just do it because their dad coached, because they were a good player and it was easy for them to get some type of job, because of the status of just saying you're a coach. If you're not 100% passionate and obsessed with this, you will not make it to where you're trying to get to. I don't know what everybody's goals are in here. I have no clue. But if it is to be incredibly successful in this profession, if you're not obsessed with this, then it's going to be really hard for you to make. You're going to need a lot of luck. The thing that I always hung my hat on is I am obsessed with. Outside of my faith and my family, this is it. Like, it's it, period. Like, coaching hoops is it. If it's a holiday, I'm in there. One of my assistants is back here, Tyler Parker, you can ask him. Like, Monday, I didn't even know that it was a holiday. Like, that's something, like, I thought July 4th was Sunday and we didn't do anything. Like, I was in the office. Like, you have to, if you really want it, you got to go get it. That's the first thing. These 8 things will not help you unless you are passionate about it. You eat, sleep, and breathe it. You think about it 24/7. That's how you make it in this profession because it is incredibly competitive. There's a lot of guys that want to be a Division I head coach, a Division II head coach, a Power 5 assistant, whatever your goal is. There's a lot of people that want that. And that's the number one separator is your passion. And like I tell my dudes, like some of our dudes, they act real tough. You know, we're really competitive in our program. Every day. A lot of teams in the summer, they do skill work, they do all this. We bump. Every day, like we get at each other. And hopefully some of you guys that have seen our teams play, hopefully you can see that. If not, I'm not doing a very good job. But they come in and we recruit a lot of transfers, and they talk about how tough they are and this and that. And I tell them every time, you can see a real one when they walk through the gym door. Like, they ain't got to tell nobody. Like, you can see a real one. Like, you can. You Auburn guys that are back there, when, like, Jared Harper walks in the gym, like, he's a real one. Like, you can feel that. Okoro walks in the gym, he's a real one. You can feel that. Like, he don't have to tell you he's a dog. You know he is. And it's the same thing as a passion as a coach. When you walk in the gym, you walk in over here at Lake Point recruiting, you can feel somebody's passion. Like, that's contagious. And that's an everyday thing, man. You either have it or you don't have it, period. So, starting with number one here, dream the impossible. Don't ever the biggest mistake you can make when you get into this profession is you let somebody tell you what you can and can't do. You let somebody put limits on where you are. Nobody limits where you are but you. Again, I'm from London, Kentucky, country southeastern town, and I was told my whole life there was just certain things that I could do and I couldn't do. Well, you probably can't do that. That's probably a little bit too big. Why can't you do that? Like, that's the beauty of this profession. Your life can change in one season. Quick. The guy that's coming in to talk after me, Nate, he's a great, not one of the best coaches in the country. He was a high school coach at one time. He just won the SEC last year. He won top 10 teams in the country. So you can't tell me that you can't go get it. But again, it comes back to your passion. How passionate are you about it? Are you obsessed with that? Do you think about it 24/7? And whatever your dream is, you attack it like this. To me, there's always doers and triers. Like, you talk to some people, and no matter what, I tried to do this. I tried to do that. I was trying. I don't allow my guys to say trying. Like, there is no trying. You either do it or you don't, period. There's no trying. There's doers or triers, and you got to be a doer. Like, it ain't about nothing else other than getting the job done, period. About finding a way. That's why we believe in burn the boats. It's conquer or be conquered. There ain't no middle ground. There ain't no safety nets. There is none of that. It's conquer or be conquered. You got to go get it every single day. You want to be whatever your dream is. Everybody in here probably got something different. Probably some the same. But you've got to attack that every day like you got to have it. It's doers and triers, man. Like doers and triers. And then have a plan. So my plan was 25, I wanted to be a Division I assistant. 30, I wanted to be a Power 5 assistant. 35, I wanted to be a head coach. That's not for everybody. Everybody doesn't have. Whatever your plan is, though, have one. Detail it. Write it down. Create. It doesn't have to be age-based. It doesn't have to be level-based. It doesn't have to be anything. But have a plan of whatever you're trying to accomplish. It's important. With our team, it's like that too. I tell them all the time, like, have a detailed plan and work towards that every day. I encourage our dudes to create a plan for each day of the week. As a coach, you don't necessarily have to do that. But you do need to create a plan throughout your coaching journey that you're trying to accomplish the mission. And the mission is, you want to be a head coach? What are you doing every year to help yourself get to that point? And only you can answer that. And the other thing about having a plan is be honest with yourself. That's another thing that makes it tough to succeed when you're not honest with yourself. I've always tried to be like that. Very honest and very hard on myself with every single thing that we do. I try to evaluate the performance that I've had. You need to do that as a coach. That's part of your plan. That's part of getting better. That's part of improving. Is you're honest with where you are. You're recruiting a kid right now. You don't get him. You're not going to get all of them. Then you're honest with yourself. Why didn't I get him? What could I have done more? And you always, every single year, when you have a plan, you raise the bar, man. You just raise the bar. Am I closer to that next goal? And then when I get that goal, that's not enough. Am I close to this goal? You keep raising the bar. Number 3, get connected. And when when I say connected, I mean meaningful relationships. There's so many people in our profession that know 1,000 people. They'll send out these mass texts. They'll send out these mass emails of no detail, of no substance. For me, if I get an email, I get a bunch of them. If I get an email and it has no, and I don't know them, and it has no detail about anything that has to do with our program or anything that has to do with it, I never answer it back. Never. Never, because I get too many of them. I can't answer everyone. But my director of operations, Mike Kosich, emailed me when I was at Nicholls State as a head coach. I just got there. And burn the boats is our thing. And he had a whole thing lined up. And at that time, he was a Division III assistant, I think volunteer, at a school called St. Mary's, I think, up in the Northeast. And it had this whole detailed approach to the whole thing. It was incredible. So immediately I hit him back. The next thing you know, I get to South Alabama, and he has maintained contact with me with a detailed approach, and I hire him as a GA, unpaid. And our unpaid GAs is something I'm proud of. Just like Mike, we got 4 of their Division I assistants now, and we got 3 of their Division I ops. They showed up at South Alabama unpaid, and we've been able to elevate their career, and they've done that because they worked their tail off. But Mike was detailed in his communication. That's why Mike got an opportunity. If he sent a mass email, I would never hit him back. That opportunity would never happen. I believe in this too. I believe you have, when you're developing these connections, you have mentors, allies, and friends. And very rarely is it the same dude. I try to be that for my staff and the guys that work for me. I got 2 guys that are on my staff at Nicholls State are the Division I head coaches now. And I try to be all 3 of those for them. And I think I might be because that's how it is. But usually your mentors are guys you look up to, right? They can, when you need to know something, hey, should I be practicing 3 or 4 times a week in the summer, or what are you guys doing? And they share that with you. Like Kelvin Sampson is a guy that I call and ask him that type of thing. Shaka Smart is a guy that I call and ask him that type of thing. Those are like mentors. Now, are they friends? Yeah, but are they the friend when things are going really bad for me in this profession that I can call and I can vent to? No, they don't want to hear that. They don't have time to hear that. So a friend is that. Somebody that you're really close with, and you can talk about a million things other than hoops, and when things get rough, you have them. An ally is somebody that can help you progress. They can also be a friend, but they're probably not your closest friends of that grouping I'm talking about. An ally may be a director of a big-time AAU program that is going to help you. That's an ally. They can help you get a player. So I like to talk about them in those groups, and those people are still friends, but you have to be realistic in your approach, right? You have to be realistic in your approach. You can't consider everybody your best friend, because when things get rough, some of them people ain't trying to hear what you have to say. So it's important to understand that part. The last thing when it comes to being connected is when I say meaningful relationships, it has to be people that you have substance with, like I talked about. But don't be that guy or that lady that when you go like over here at Lake Point and recruit, you try to talk to everybody. Like everybody, you're not even watching the game. Boom, handshake, dap this guy up, fist pump this dude. Like, it's good to talk to people. People like that. But you stick out like a sore thumb when you're doing that because you're not watching the game. You're not getting you couldn't tell me anything about the game. And as a head coach now, I notice that. And I constantly watch how dudes move at these things, because I always keep a running list of dudes that I want to talk to if I have an opening. And I usually have openings because we're trying to push guys to be head coaches. We're trying to push guys to that next step in their journey. And I always keep a running list so I know. And sometimes I've had guys, I've looked at them on the road, and I've been like, man, I got to get that guy off my list, man. He couldn't tell me one thing that just happened in this game because he's too busy talking to everybody. Those relationships you're trying to form then aren't going to be meaningful because everybody's trying to watch the game. Don't try to move and shake so much it makes you look like a guy that can't be trusted to help that head coach win. So be smart how you move. Utilize your strengths while improving your weaknesses. Too many people are busy on the front end trying to prove they can do something they're not great at when they first get a job. You get whatever head coach hires you, he hires you because he sees some strengths in you that can really help the program win and be successful. So it's the worst feeling in the world when you hire somebody and they come in there and all of a sudden you're like, dang, man, I brought you in here to do this. You're trying to do too much of this. I brought you in here to do this. I need you to be elite at this because that's the plan. Now, does that mean you don't improve your weakness? No. You're constantly trying to be great at everything is the goal. But you always have to utilize your strengths while improving your weaknesses. If you're an unbelievable tactician and somebody hires you to come in there and help them on the offensive side or defensive side, whatever it may be, then you come in there and your focus is that. While in your own time and, as you go, you start trying to become a great recruiter. You start trying to build connections so that you can get players too. So you become well-rounded. And vice versa. If you're an unbelievable recruiter, come in there. Focus on that. Keep trying to get more responsibility from a basketball perspective too. As you go. That doesn't happen day one. When you get a job, utilize your strengths. The other thing about strengths and weaknesses that I talk about a lot too is don't allow yourself to get in a box. As a minority coach, I talk about this a lot. I tell young guys this. The reason you get the job sometimes is to be a recruiter. They look at you in a way like, all right, all right, let's get some dudes, and this is what you're going to do. And that's fine. Like, if that gets your foot in the door, that's fine. It's probably how I got my foot in the door a lot, is being able to go get dudes. Because no matter how good we can coach, you got to have dudes or you're not going to win. But don't get in that box. Keep fighting to get more responsibility from a basketball perspective. And the same thing goes the other way too, and I don't talk about this as much just because of the things that I talk at. If you're looked at as a tactician or whatever it is, don't let that be your box either. Go recruit. Like, learn, show your boss. Eventually, again, utilize your strengths, improve your weaknesses. So show your boss that you can get a dude. One of the things about our staff, like Tyler Parker's back here, he's one of my assistants. He's one of the best recruiters in all of America. When you look at my staff and you look at it, like that wouldn't, like if we put a screenshot of our whole staff up here and we took a survey, an anonymous survey, you might rank him the third best on our staff just by looking at him. He's phenomenal. He's one of the best in the country. And I know all of them, almost. Probably all of them. He's one of the best in the country at any level. So don't ever let, a perception of you become a reality of putting you in that box. Keep working on your craft. Again, utilize your strengths, improve your weaknesses, work on your craft to be as well-rounded as possible. Stay in relentless pursuit. You have to be obsessed with this. A lot of people talk about balance in your life, and that's good. Like, balance is good. I got destroyed one time on Twitter. I happened to tweet something one time about, like, I don't even remember what it was, but the gist of it was, like, if you're a 9-to-5 dude in this profession and you chose the wrong profession, something like that. And Twitter ate me alive. There's people came out of the woodwork. People I don't even know. Like, I ain't know none of them came out of the woodwork. It's a bunch of strength coaches. It's funny. It is. I don't know why it was that, but it was a bunch of people just came out of the woodwork. And like it or not, it's fine. You don't have to like it. You don't, but if you want to be really successful in this, there ain't much balance to it. If you want a ton of balance in your life where 9 to 5 you off on the weekends, you do what you want, then do something else. Like do something else. Nobody forces us to do this. That's what I tell my wife this sometimes. I love my wife to death. She's my best friend in the world. I tell her, like, this ain't a balanced job. This ain't a job where I turn it off. And I spend a lot of time with my kid. Now I'm a head coach, especially. I get to make my own schedule a bit, so I get to spend more time with them. During COVID, I got to spend a lot of time with them when we had, we obviously were still battling COVID, but during, when we couldn't go recruiting, when we couldn't do this, couldn't do that, I got to spend more time with my kids I've ever got to spend with them, and my wife. They're probably sick of me now, I don't know, but I got to spend a lot of time with them. But I don't ever turn it off. Can't. When I made a commitment to climb in this thing and to fight and scrap, I can't turn it off. I got to work all the time. Like, I'll be home and I can't turn it off. My phone, bang, I'm on the phone. I'm looking at the phone. I'm on whatever it is. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. That's this profession. If you want to do it at the highest level, that's this profession. Again, I keep seeing these Auburn dudes back there. Do you think Bruce Pearl turns it off? He never turns it off. You could ask him. I know him personally. Unbelievable dude. I almost went and coached with him a few years ago before I went to Nicholls State. Unbelievable dude. These guys that you see on TV, I think that sometimes people get lost in that. These dudes work relentlessly. Relentlessly. Because that's what it takes. It takes exactly what it takes to be successful in this profession. Again, there's plenty of other professions. This ain't the only way to make a dollar. You can make a dollar a lot of different ways. But if you choose this, then you choose that life. So for me, balance is a word. It's tough. It's tough to be balanced and be a basketball coach at this level. It's really tough. I know some people do it. They're smarter than me. It's hard. It's hard. I got to put every ounce of energy I have into it to be successful. It's just who I am. I'm not as smart as them. I'm not as good looking as them, whatever it may be. I got to put everything I got into this thing. Every single ounce of energy, every day. Bet on yourself. When it comes to money in this profession, it's a long game. It's a long game. Too many people get caught up in $10,000 here, $10,000 there. I can't take this job because it's going to be a $5,000 pay cut. None of that matters. None of that matters. Find a way. That's what I did the whole time. I took pay cuts. I got credit cards out. I did anything I had to do to make it. Some people ain't willing to sacrifice that. That's okay. Then don't do it. But then you can't sit at home and say, well, man, I can't get a chance, man. Like, I can't do this. I can't do that. You can't do that. You can't say that because you turned down an opportunity. You just wasn't willing to take a $10,000 pay cut. When I was coming through this thing, and I'm still like that as a head coach at South Alabama, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to bet on myself that I can. Like, when I left Clemson, I left $90,000 on the table. I left $90,000 on the table. I was supposed to meet Coach Pearl in Atlanta. It was during a live event to talk about the job at Auburn, being an assistant. And I was an assistant at Clemson already. I called him. You guys can ask him. I called him on a Saturday, and I said, Coach, I've decided I'm going to take this job. And you know what? He was one of the few that said, you know what, man? You're going to kill it. You're going to do good. He was one of the few that said, all the mentors in my life, they said, you're an idiot. Do not take Nicholls State. Do not go down there. But BP was one of the ones that said that. And I left $90,000 on the table to go to one of the worst jobs in America at the Division I level. And I did that because I bet on myself. I burned the boats. And when you burn the boats and you bet on yourself, then you operate with a have-to-have-it mentality. You got to have it. You got to have it. You ain't got no choice. I got kids I'm raising. I got a wife I'm supporting. And I just cost us that much money. Yeah, I got to have it. I got to win, and I got to get us somewhere where this whole move made a lot of sense. And we did. That brings me to number 7, a Game 7 mentality. Game 7 like the NBA Finals, Game 7 like the World Series, whatever. Game 7 means what? What's Game 7 mean? Win or go home. Burn the boats. Win or go home. Every single day in our program, I tell our dudes this. It's the way we operate. You can ask TP back there. It's game 7. It's one of the reasons we don't just do skill work in the summer. Some people think I'm crazy for saying that. Because I don't ever want them to be able to just relax and chill and develop a mentality of like, yeah, we're just going to come out here and get some jumpers up for 30. We don't do that. And I don't do that with any area of our program. Every practice is game 7. Every recruiting battle is game 7. Every single thing is game 7. Because if you operate like that and you fail a little bit, then it might still be enough. You may not, but if you operate on a game 3 mentality when you've already won a game on the road, you can't live like that. Not in this profession. Everything's got to mean the world to you. It's got to be game 7. That type of intensity, that type of urgency, that type of energy every day. And you think like, yeah, it's exhausting. It is exhausting. It is exhausting. It's exhausting every day. Do I think sometimes, if I didn't treat everything like that, would I not have bad anxiety? Would I not struggle like going to sleep at night with all this stuff? Yeah, I would. But again, like, what do you want to make of it? I made a decision a long time ago. Hopefully some of you guys are making that decision too. Like, you're going to operate game 7 in everything you do. Every single thing. Because if you do, it's going to pay off. It's going to pay off. If you embrace that type of grind, you embrace that type of mentality, it will pay off. Because this profession, a lot of people think it's politics. A lot of people think it wasn't for me. Like, I fought and scrapped, just like some of y'all are going to do. And there's people in here that are good enough to be, there's people in here sitting here at this conference that could be Power 5 assistants right now. Like Alfred Jordan back there could be a Power 5 assistant right now. And some of you others probably could too. But I know him personally. He could. The job that he did at Little Rock, he could. Could be a Power 5 assistant. And I feel strongly my guy Tyler Parker back there, because I work with him every day, could be a Power 5. They haven't got that opportunity yet. They haven't got that opportunity yet. They're fighting to get to that. They would probably like to do that one day. I don't know. I don't know what Alfred wants to do, but I know TP would like to do it one day. So you have to bring that type of energy every single second. So you leave no doubt. So you leave no doubt at any time that is where you're trying to get to. And then the last one, only the paranoid survive. My wife thinks I'm crazy when I say that. She thinks I'm like a lunatic. What I mean by that is whenever you do, wherever you're at right now too, there's somebody that wants your position. There's somebody, more than one, rooting on you to fail. They want to see your team lose. They want to see you not do well. They may want that because they want your job. They may want that because they just are envious of what you have and don't want you to have that anymore. So I always work paranoid all the time because I've worked too damn hard for somebody to come take it. Like, I'm not letting it happen. I'm not. And that's how you got to be. That's what you guys got to be. You got to be paranoid. You got to know that there's always somebody that's thinking, they're eyeing your deal. Like, they want your spot. That's wherever you go. You become a Division I head coach, they want that. You're a Division II assistant at some job, there's somebody that wants that. There's somebody rooting for you to fail. And that's not like fun to say or fun to think about probably, because you want everybody to be your buddy and you want everybody to want you to do good and cheer you on when you do it. That's not reality. It's not reality. There's people rooting for your downfall right now, whatever job you have. 100%. 100%. And I don't ever forget that or let it leave my mind, because I like to try to keep a chip on my shoulder. No matter how good things are going, that's how I like to be, because that motivates me. It may not motivate all you guys, but it motivates me. Because I'm always fighting. I don't ever forget what it was like to sweep the floors, drive the vans, do the laundry, all the stuff I was doing at Pike. I was doing it as associate head coach at Pike. I was back before University of Pikeville had money. They got money now. Kelly did a good job raising money. But I was doing all that. And I don't ever for a second forget. And I don't ever, like, again, you can ask TP. Like, I may sweep the floor now just so, like, you take your mind to that place of never changing. Never changing that urgency you work with. Never changing who you are. Because that's the other thing that's easy to do is you climb in levels as you change. You become privileged. And you become somebody that can't go back into that mindset of where you were. I don't ever do that. I don't ever allow myself to do that. Because when you do that, you start to fail. You start to relax. And for me, again, like I can be back there just as quick as I could be somewhere else. And I don't ever lose track of that. That's why we work the way we work. And that's why we keep the mindset the mindset. It has to stay there. It has to stay there. Not only when it comes, and that's for wins and losses too. Now, our team like feels that every day of what we are. But that's for me because I want to be successful in this. I've sacrificed a lot to be successful in this. So I can't, for a second, let myself relax because we're doing pretty good at South Alabama. That ain't what it's about. I can't relax. And in this profession, you've got to find a way to develop a mindset of that if you really want to go get it. If you really, really want to go get it, then you got to be that dude. And it's uncomfortable. You miss out on some fun. But again, it's priorities. For me, for you all, it's different probably. It's faith, family, hoops. Those two things are separate, and then hoops is here, and there's nothing below that. That's all. That is what it is. So that's everybody's decision, what they want to be about. But again, I've enjoyed this. I'm easy to kind of, I'll take questions. Do I have time to take questions or no? Yeah. What time is it? Yeah, I'll take questions. Right here.
Anthony Carlisle, Yankton City High School in Mississippi. My question is, you spoke on the Game 7 mentality, like during the summertime, you don't really do a lot of skill development. Can you kind of expound on, what that looks like in the summer? Like, what are some things that you guys are doing, and how does that get them better for what, you're trying to accomplish for the season?
Yeah, we do quite a bit of skill development as far as, like, we've got a large staff of graduate assistants. So a lot of those guys can do some of that where within our hour limit, we're not out there with them. We can't direct that, but guys get in there. Like, we have a culture of guys living in that gym. During my 4 hours with them on the court, we spend about an hour of skill development and 3 hours of competition. So what we do starting in the summer with our dudes is everything is competition-based. There's a winner, a loser. You lose, you run. Like, that's what it is. A winner, a loser in everything. We have a thing that I call Exposure Fridays. If you email me, I'll send you some stuff we do. I'd love to do that. But we do a thing called Exposure Fridays where it's one-on-ones. And there's 6 games of one-on-one. It lasts about 20 minutes. We do it at the end of the week with the 20 minutes we got left over. And if me and you were playing, we get at it one-on-one. I beat you. You're on the line running a 22. As soon as you make it, you're back. We check ball. It's like a fight. And you're tired, right? And I beat you again. Boom, you run a 22 again. You don't make it, you run another one. When we come back, we check ball. Now you're trying to fight yourself off the ropes and put me on the line to run a 22, right? So that you can even the fight up a little bit. And I'm trying to TKO you where, like, if I can get this dude on the line one more 22, man, I'm going to go ahead and win all 6 of these things. So we have that at the end of the week. And that's the same day we do, like, our road game conditioning. And we call it road game because it's tough to win on the road. We go out there, and it's something somewhere on campus, somewhere in the community, and it's a surprise for them. They come out there, and it's like, it's hard. And they do it as a team. They do it together. And then it follows up Exposure Friday. And then throughout the week, we track wins and losses and all we do. Whether it's 3-on-3 in practice, 5-on-5, whatever we're doing. There's a winner in the weight room every day. Our strength coach gives a winner in the weight room. And we keep a running tally of wins on the board in the locker room. So if you win, you get the big belt, the Burn the Boats belt. And you pose. If anybody follows us on Twitter, you pose. You get to muscle up, do all that with the belt on. So I say that I don't want you to think we don't ever work on skill because we put a lot of time in the gym. But within my 4 hours, we're using that to see who's going to compete, to see who you can trust. I like to find that out in the summer. A lot of guys don't. Like, I like to find out in the summer. That way when I get to the fall, I know who I can rock with. Like, I want to know already, like, who's going to rock when things get tough. So it's kind of, it's a small part of what we do. You know, I gave you a brief rundown. But, yeah, anytime you want, and you're in Mississippi, what part? How far is that from Mobile?
Probably about 2 to 3 hours.
Anytime you want to come watch practice, you can email us, let us know.
You can come over here anytime you want. Anybody else? AJ.
Alfred Jordan. Today I actually was talking about you during lunch, and I had brought it up, and I said one thing, because I coached against you 4 times, and one thing I always noticed was from you down to the strength and conditioning coach, during games, the energy that y'all bring is unmatched. And I just wanted to know, as a head coach, what is it that you do every day to bring that energy to your coaches? Because I also coached against TP when he was at Shorter, and I noticed the difference in his coaching as an assistant at Shorter to when he was at South Alabama, and how way more engaged, and just the energy level with the coaching staff is up from shoot around until y'all getting back on the bus. And I just wanted to know, as a head coach, what is it that you do to motivate your staff right now?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. That's the best compliment you can pay to our program. It's that guy, it's got to have it mentality. Have to have it mentality. And we do that every day. If your energy sucks in practice, then I'm on your ass. Period. If you're the manager, the strength coach, assistant, whoever, like I've sent dudes out. I've kicked guys out of practice because their energy's terrible. I'm not going to kick guys out of practice for a coaching mistake or something like that during practice. But if your energy sucks, they all know. You can ask him. Like, I'm not doing that. We have to give our dudes no excuse to not play balls out as hard as they can play. And it starts with us because they feed off us. I've never sit down 1 second that I've been a head coach. Not 1 second of a game. Not any second. I've been beat. I went down and played Florida State my first year at Nichols. We weren't very good. They beat us 65, I think. They were loaded. And I didn't sit down. I coached like it was a 10-point game the entire game. And same thing, we could be winning by 60. I coached like that the whole game. And my staff feeds off that. And I try to hire energetic people. I want energetic people that want to be that. That it's not that I don't have to pull it out of. It's like when we recruit dudes, you don't want to have to pull out like to get them to play hard. You want them to have that in their DNA. And I try to hire like that. I don't hire anybody that's not extremely passionate, extremely energetic when I interview them. And that to me, the juice that your program has and how you operate every day, because practice is like that too. Practice is juiced up too every day, every single day. If it's not, then it's a problem. So I'm glad that you said that. That's a great compliment. Huff.
Coach Huff, Warriors College. 2-part question. Number 1, at Nichols State, your recruiting budget was $1,000. What did you do to get that recruiting budget up? We've kind of talked about it, but I just want to know some more about that. Number 2, you do a lot of ghost screens. What brought you to that at South Alabama?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When I was at Nichols State, I joke, I was a full-time fundraiser, part-time coach. And I worked, again, relentlessly. You see me say relentlessly to raise money for our program because I knew we couldn't function. I mean, not only was our recruiting budget $1,000, but our travel budget was something crazy, like $110,000. And we had to go everywhere. We had to get $475,000 worth of buy games, and we didn't get a dime of it. It all went to the athletic program. So we had to find a way to raise the budget, and I went and got some people in the community that had never, hadn't really given to it, and I recruited them. And I won a lot of them over, and they gave us enough money where we could actually go out. We couldn't go out wherever we wanted, but we could pick and choose and go out and normally recruit. And then the transfer market. Like, we've been really good at it. We've been good at that. I've done that my whole career, been pretty good at it. And there, what really helped us was we signed probably 2 of the top 3 players in the league and had them sitting out. And we didn't have to go anywhere. I was able to get those done off relationships. And didn't cost us any money as far as visits or going to see them or none of that type of stuff. So with that, we were able to survive. And now it's actually, Nichols has became a pro. Clanch's there. He's one of my best friends in the world. He's doing an unbelievable job. He's one of the best young coaches in the country. He actually, it's raised the bar for the program. Like, they operate a lot differently than when we took over the job. As far as the ghost screens, I watch basketball nonstop. I'm either recruiting or watching hoops nonstop. I'll watch any basketball game. I'll watch a 7th grade middle school game if it happened to be on. If that was the only game on, I would watch it, the whole thing. But I watch a ton of European hoops, and I watch a ton of NBA. And I think everything those guys do, it ends up coming to our level eventually, and we try to stay, ahead of the curve with all of that stuff. We try to be creative, innovative. So we do a ton of run and misses, or a ghost. We call it a buzz, and we run and miss. And a lot of the things we do out of it, we create some false action, and then bang, we get a guy who's a great handler, driver, with a run and miss with a shooter. The Warriors, where I first started falling in love with the Warriors, started doing it years ago they do it with Draymond to create advantages, get it back to him, he'd drive it and spray it, but they would do it with Clay and Steph. And I couldn't think of a better combo to do with Clay and Steph, because you got shooter, and I fell in love with it, and I've kind of put my own spin on it. We do some really unique things. And the other thing, like TP can tell you, in practice, I'll try all kinds of wild stuff offensively. And if I don't like it, we'll never do it again. And I think as a coach, you got to be, don't be afraid to try stuff, live. Like, I'll throw it out there. If there are guys, we'll work on it for 20 minutes. And if it, like some of those actions or whatever it is, if I don't like it, then we'll never do it again. We'll bring it back up. And some people may look and say, well, you're wasting time. No, not really. What if it works? What if I really love it? And it's something that we do a lot. And I won't know that unless I try it. So I know you're taking over there. You just finished year 1 and going into year 2. And I'm sure you know this already, but try new stuff, man. Like, don't be afraid to experiment a little bit in practice. Don't do it with a 2-point game with like 30 seconds left, but try it in practice and see if you like it. I know coaches back there, I can take one more. You've had your hand up the whole time.
Coach Riley Jackson, Francis Mary University, right there by Coastal.
Yeah.
You touched on it a little bit, but you've always been ahead of the curve when it comes to the transfer market. What's next? Is it NIL? What's the next thing?
I think NIL is certainly going to play a major role in how recruiting goes. I think it plays a bigger role for the SEC, the ACC, those leagues, the Big 12, all the Power 5 guys. I think it can play a role in ours. I don't know how much. Like, certainly our guys are going to be able to benefit from it, I think. I think transfers with the new rule is going to be here to stay for a little bit. I think where guys can leave and be immediately eligible. And you talk about trends. Back when I first became an assistant, junior college was the wave for me. My goal was to be the best junior college recruiter in the country. That was my goal. I don't know that I ever achieved that, but that was my goal. I wanted to do that. And like when I was at UAB, we signed like 4 guys that ended up being all Conference USA, all JUCO dudes from the state of Florida, from the Panhandle. And that was kind of a wave where we could take advantage right there and get guys that are probably Power 5 level guys, but we developed a niche. And we got at Clemson, I tried to develop a niche there of transfers. I started, trying to do that, and we were able to do that. We signed 3 transfers that ended up, being the leading guys to take Coach Brownell to the Sweet 16. I don't know how many years, 4 years ago or something. And then as a head coach, I wanted to do that. At South Alabama, it's been my goal, and again, I don't know that I've achieved that, but it's the goal to be the best in the country at the mid-major level recruiting transfers. To be able to get a cut above that level. Can I go toe-to-toe with Alabama for a transfer? No, probably not. But if I can be the best at that, then it gives us a heck of a chance. It creates a brand where we can get some guys, quote unquote, we shouldn't get. And that's what we're trying to do. And each year we've raised the bar a little bit. Like, this was our best transfer class we've had. We signed 8 of them. Seems like a lot, right? Now, we balanced it out where, a couple have 1 year, a couple have 2, a couple have 3. I think that's important when you recruit transfers. is you can't have 9 dudes with 1 year left. You can't function like that. So we got 8 of them, but they're balanced out, and they don't have to sit, which is huge. And it also allows us to balance our classes. So in a roundabout way, I think the answer is, I think transfers are going to be here to stay for a minute. And you can follow the trend a little bit by looking at, you know, like Coach sitting over there and Coach Cal and all these guys. I mean, they're recruiting transfers at the highest level of hoops, you know. So it's going to be here for a minute. And then I got to do my best to try to get ahead. And when that starts wearing down, I got to try to get ahead and find the next new thing. But I think that'll be here for a while. All right, I appreciate you guys so much for listening to me go on and on for an hour here. I'm easy to contact. You can find me on Twitter, send me a direct message. I always get back to you. You can email me. Whatever it is, don't hesitate to do that. I would love to get to know everybody in here and help you in a way that I can. Thanks.
Guys, Coach Riley actually, his first 3 years of being a head coach, he always had a player on his roster that I was able to coach, and whenever the guys would come back, they would always talk about how they loved playing for Coach Riley and how competitive he was, and how, again, it was 2 years at Nickel State, and just like how he was just changing the culture of the program around. So the stuff he's saying, man, like I know guys that played for him, and it's the living honest to God truth. So we appreciate him being here and sharing that wisdom with us. Our next speaker that we have, again, he probably doesn't need an introduction, but we have Nate Oats, head coach at Alabama. I've known Coach Oats now for 15, 20 years. So Coach Oats and I go way back to his days as a high school coach up in the state of Michigan, in Detroit. So what he's been able to do as a high school coach, and then as an assistant coach at Buffalo, head coach at Buffalo, and then obviously now at Alabama. He's done some unbelievable things. So we really appreciate him being here. I think he's going to hook up his computer. Coach, you got your computer?
Yeah, I got mine.
Yep. So we're going to hook up Coach Oats' computer, and we'll get started here in a minute. Yeah, I got to work. I'm going to get it right now for you. That's all right. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started. Like I mentioned, Coach Oats and I go back 15, 20 years. Coach Oats, when he was a high school coach up in Detroit, he actually became a student manager at Dayton. He was a high school coach. He would come down and work our camps. So, like a lot of people, they don't really talk about that camp grind anymore of going different places and working camps and just networking, meeting people, working hard. But that's a living proof of this relationship that, I mean, I've known his whole family. He knows my whole family for the past 15, 20 years. So, a really good friend, obviously a fantastic coach. So, we're lucky to have him here. Nate Oats, Alabama basketball.
I'm going to try to do a little bit of everything, not a little bit of everything, but I'm going to give you my background, talk a little bit about philosophy, kind of the job deal, and then I'm going to actually get into some basketball. So it sounds like we had a little bit, Mike Young came in and did all X and O's the whole time, and we had some other, so I'm going to try to give you a little bit of everything, and I'll have time at the end for questions. But for those of you who don't know, I'm going to give you my background. Everybody pretty much knows I was a high school coach not that long ago. So I was 11 years, I was the head coach at Romulus High School right outside Detroit. Before that, I played Division III basketball, a small D3 school called Maranatha Baptist. My dad's a professor there, so I went for free. And it's like smallest D3 you're going to find. So it's like, my playing career was, I mean, I wouldn't trade my path for anything. Like some of my best friends are the guys I played with there. But you're not getting into high major Division I basketball by playing at Maranatha. So like he said, you kind of I had to make all my own connections. My college coach had zero connections. He's passed away since. He was older at the time. He did nothing to help me other than when I was done playing, he hired me to like be an assistant. Now at that school, it was not a paid spot. So for 3 years, I was like a volunteer assistant at Division III program. I learned a lot. I was able to do a ton. I then knew I wasn't, I didn't really have a future there unless I was going to be the head coach there, and I kind of wanted to get a little bigger than that. So I went as a volunteer assistant at another D3 school, University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, which is a lot bigger and better Division III. I mean, they win national championships in that league a lot. So I went there for 2 years. So for 5 years after I was done playing, I was a Division III volunteer assistant. So at 27 years old, I really hadn't had a job yet, full-time, making money, coaching basketball. I was still a volunteer assistant at Division III school at 27 years old. I then had a college teammate of mine that had moved back to Detroit. He was from Detroit. He had gotten a job at Romulus. The job opened up. He called me about it. I had zero interest in going to high school. I didn't really think that was the way to move up, the way I wanted to move up. The plan was, try to get a head D3 job, try to get a head D2 job and see where that kind of took me. And if I could have been a head D2 coach for my career, coming from where I'd come from, I would have been happy as can be, and I would have been all right doing that. So I didn't really plan to go to high school. I thought that was a step back, but he convinced me to apply for it. I sent him my stuff. He doctored the whole thing up, made the PowerPoint look great, gave it to the principal. Got a call the next day from the HR guy, hey, we want to interview you. So at that point, I hadn't seen Ed for a couple of years. I was like, screw it, I'll go interview. And I'm fairly competitive, so I wasn't going to lose the interview. I think they had about 80 people apply for the job. They were interviewing 8. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to make them offer me the job, and then I'll turn it down and go back to college, and I'll hang out with Ed for the weekend. And so I went out. Ed introduced me to the principal, all these people, the players. They had a kid committed to Michigan, a kid named Ron Coleman, who, ironically enough, was from Alabama. His mother had sent him up to live with her brother up there. I actually loved it there. I got him to offer me the job like I said I was going to do, and then they paid while I was a D3 assistant, I was a full-time math teacher at the public school in the town I grew up in. I was making $37,000. Romulus was going to pay me $42,000 to be the head basketball coach and teach math, so I got a $5,000 raise, and I called my wife and said we're going to move to Detroit. She started crying on the phone. She didn't want to move to Detroit, but we moved to Detroit. So at 27 years old, I took a high school job. I was there for 11 years. When I first took the high school job at Romulus, I would have taken any Division I assistant job, anywhere. I could have been up in, in the middle of nowhere. I didn't really care. If I could have gotten a Division I job, I would have taken it. The longer I was at Romulus, the more, and I ended up having 18 kids go play Division I, and that's how I got to know Andy and a bunch of other people. But when I was a D3 guy, I worked a bunch of camps also. One summer I worked 6 different weeks of 5-star camp, and I hated it at the end, but it was good for me. I made a bunch of connections. I would go work Dayton's camp, Michigan State, Wisconsin. Shoot, I went out to work Manhattan's camp under Bobby Gonzalez. I don't know if anybody in here knows him, but I got plenty of camp stories. But I had to make all my own connections, and it was working camp, working your tail off. So I get the high school job. I bring my point guard from Maranatha back with me, Josh Baker. He comes in to help me. We just basically said we're going to outwork everybody in the state of Michigan, try to build the best program we can. The guy before me had gotten fired because he didn't run a program well enough, and he was actually a decent coach. He just didn't, he coached the girls when they were in the fall, and then the boys, you couldn't run like a year-round program and wasn't getting kids into school. So our thing was, let's get them really good and get them into school. So we started working out at 6 in the morning after school. We went 12 months out of the year, and we just outworked everybody. I had 18 kids go play Division I. I made a bunch of Division I connections through that, which has ended up how I ended up getting into Division I eventually. But by the end of my time there, and I had interviewed with a few different coaches, and towards the end, I remember going into year 10 at Romulus, I just finished up 9 years. If you got 10 years in the state of Michigan system, you got vested and you had a retirement. So I was like, what's the point of leaving with 1 year left? I'd bought 5 years. If I could stay 1 more year, I would have 15 years in because I bought 5. I'm not leaving after 9 because then you basically have nothing going. And I wouldn't say I turned it down because it never got offered to me, but in the interview I basically told them it would have to be an unreal job to leave now. And I had interviewed for one before, didn't get it. I had a few different interviews. Well, I got to the point where I was pretty satisfied with running a really good high school program, and kind of ironically enough, the guy that I looked up to a lot that kind of got me to that point was Bob Hurley Sr., and he was been offered a bunch of, I wouldn't say a bunch, but he'd been offered some head Division I jobs, turned him down to stay at St. Anthony's. I was like, if he can, be that good of a coach and stay in high school, I can too. So once I got comfortable with being a really good high school coach and running a great high school program, literally within a couple of years, then Danny Hurley, I got tight with, one of my players went to play for him. Bobby Hurley gets the job at Buffalo, offers me the head assistant spot, at which point I took it. I said if I was going to get in, I had to get in with somebody I was convinced was going to win. The Hurleys had a big name. I looked up to their dad. They kind of valued high school coaches a little bit more than a regular college coach. And then I caught a bunch of breaks in the last 8 years, to be honest with you. Like, I probably don't deserve to be where I'm at. 2013, I was coaching Romulus High School. 2015, Bobby Hurley took the Arizona State job. I got the head job at Buffalo after only being in Division I for 2 years. We did pretty well in 4 years, and I've been the head coach at Alabama for the last 2. And we had a pretty decent year this year. So I caught a bunch of breaks along the way that maybe I didn't deserve, but I'll say this, wherever you're at right now, you're gonna have to catch a break, but when the break comes, you better be ready for it. And if you're not ready for it, it's gonna come and go, and you may not get it again. So, look, I had no idea if I was ever gonna get a chance to be a Division I assistant. I really had gotten to the point in my career where it wasn't going to bother me that bad. I was a really good high school coach, and we won a lot of games, and I felt like we had the best program in Michigan at the time, and I was satisfied with that. Well, so one I would say is be really dang good in your role, and obviously you got to make connections, and you got to do all that if you want to move up. But if you're not really good at what you're doing now, like as a head coach, I'm not going to hire you. Like I tell our guys all the time, I got a bunch of sport guys. Like one, you're probably not going to move on if we're not good. People want to hire from good programs. So in order for us to be good, you better be really good in your role because we need everybody around here to be great in their role. So I look at my staff, I've got 3 full-time assistants who all came on way different routes. Like Antoine Petway was there before I got to Alabama. He was a walk-on at Alabama, done a great job, stayed on through a few coaches. One of the smartest things I did when I got there was keep him, and he's great. But he, played Division I and kind of Brian Hodgson, was with me all 4 years at Buffalo and he's a dang good recruiter. Went the junior college route. I hired him out of junior college when I got the job at Buffalo, and he's done an unbelievable job recruiting for us. So he went the JUCO route. Petway went Division I. He went JUCO. Charlie Henry, who I gave him his first job out of college. He played for his dad at a small NAIA school, Madonna, right outside Detroit. He wanted to get into coaching. He came and helped me for a year at Romulus. I got him on as a GA at Utah under Jim Boylan. After a few more career moves, went to the Pacers, Iowa State, the Bulls. He was the Bulls G League head coach. I hired him back with me for the last 2 years. So there's a bunch of different ways to get to this thing. And my path, like hardly anybody takes that path. But my point is, make the connections, work your tail off, be really good in your job, and then you're going to have to catch a break. I don't care how good you are, you got to catch a break once in a while and be ready for the break when it comes. So a couple of things I learned when I was a high school coach. One is this, and you know, I was at Buffalo, and it's a little different being at Alabama versus Buffalo. You can experiment a little bit more at Buffalo, but you can experiment a ton in high school. Like, you don't have a beat writer writing about every game. They write about your big games when you win, not about every time you lose. So I kind of developed my whole philosophy, and we'll get into our how we play and stuff here in a minute. But when I was a high school coach, so my deal, and everybody asked me, how did you get, because we're one of the fastest teams in the country. We spread the floor out. We take a lot of threes. So my thing was this. My first year at Romulus, we lost in the districts, I believe the score was 48-35. We only scored like 35 points. It was awful. It was boring. It was terrible basketball. We had one guy that could score it, the kid going to Michigan. They took him out of the game, and we had nothing left. So after that year, I said, we're never doing that again. We had athletes. Let's get in the gym and turn them into really skilled players. So we did. We went at 6 a.m. We started with 2 kids. Avery Stevenson, Dante Williams were on the JV that first year. They started going at 6 o'clock every morning. They both ended up playing at Saginaw Valley State, and I like them both a ton. I still stay in touch with them. But those 2 turned into about 30 by the end. And some of the coaches that come through, we had a bunch of kids in every morning at Romulus. By the time we started with 0 shooting machines. We were fundraising enough to leave them with 6 when I left there. Like, we took a bunch of athletes and turned them into players. So then my thing is this. If we're going to spend all this time in the gym developing players, why am I going to turn them into a robot when it comes time to play the game? Like, we're going to let them hoop. Like, we're going to teach them spacing. We're going to get the structure right, but we're going to let them go play. Because if you don't let them go play, then they're not going to want to get in the gym and work like they need to work to get better. So if you let them use what they work on when they're in the gym working on their skills, then they're going to want to get in there more. So when we got to Alabama, we had to change the whole culture on that too. Guys were not in the gym at all. When we got to Buffalo, we had to change it. When I was at Romulus, we changed it. I think one of the biggest things you can do is build a culture where your guys want to be in the gym getting better. And you can't do it, in my opinion, if you make them play like a robot when they go out and play. I mean, there's really good high school coaches in Michigan that did no skill work, and they draw up great plays, and we'd sit there and watch them, and they'd get a guy in open. Well, you can't make the shot because they don't spend any time doing skill work. I'd rather have really dang good players and be average with my plays than the other way around. Now, I think you get really good when you got great players and great plays, and you put the whole package. You get great on offense, you're great on defense, you got the whole thing going. But you got to have good players or you're going to stink. So and in high school, you had to develop them. So with me, I kind of made my name back in Detroit with a lot of player development stuff, and I'm not going to change it once I get into college. So we still spend a ton of time on player development. We do it during the season, off season, the whole deal. So that's a little bit of how we developed our style of play. But when I get to Buffalo, and I'm going to touch on a few things here and there, and then we'll get to some basketball here in a second. I was with Hurley. We recruited some really good players. When he left to go to Arizona State, 3 players that were supposed to play for Buffalo left with him to go play at Arizona State. They were all pretty good. We had 5 open scholarships, a couple kids. So we had to piece it together. We took 3 JUCO kids. We took a couple high school kids that were available after their senior year was over. You know, most of those guys aren't that good. One of them ended up being C.J. Massenberg, who was a 2,000-point scorer there. He's really dang good. So again, we caught another break with some recruiting stuff. But I felt like our first 2 years, we had some pretty good talent. We made the NCAA tournament my first year. We made it my second year as an assistant under Bobby. We made it my first year as a head coach. Did not make it our second year. I thought our culture wasn't great. we put together a culture playbook, and I'm not going to get into all that. I can all this stuff. If you reach out to we changed his title now. He's director of analytics and scouting, but Adam Bowman, who is really cool with all the rising coaches guy, he's great, and he's one of the best. He used to be my ops guy until he changed his title, but he's one of the best support staff guys in the country. If you reach out to him, he can get you anything you want on anything we do, and he will, because he's one of you guys. So, but we put together a culture playbook, which I could spend an hour talking about, which I thought was great. I brought in a guy from the outside that has nothing to do with basketball. He had his own counseling practice for like 30 years, and he's kind of our culture coach. He's now down with me full time. His name is Arnie Ewan. He was a pastor, a counselor, had his own counseling practice. He was not a basketball coach at all. So he didn't look at X and O, none of that. All he looked at was like the culture, the guys' attitudes. He counseled them one-on-one. I thought it was big with our culture. Our culture got really good in years 3 and 4 at Buffalo. That's when we popped Arizona in the NCAA tournament, ranked in the top 25 that whole last year at Buffalo. I brought Arnie with me, and we've kept doing this. Like, they've got a culture meeting with just the players tomorrow and him. We go every week all summer. We do a whole install on the culture playbook. We do a retreat where we take the guys out for like 3 days, 2 nights. So I think culture is a big deal, and everybody talks about it. But I think you got to be intentional with how you install it. Like, now, everybody's got a culture. So if you don't be intentional about what your culture looks like, you know, you can still have a good culture if you got great kids, but I think it's a lot easier to have great culture if you actually are more intentional, and we kind of put that whole thing in. So and then we brought it with us to Alabama. So that's a little bit of just some non-basketball related stuff. If anybody's got questions I'm going to get to the basketball stuff like right now. If anybody's got questions on any of the non-basketball stuff, any of that, I'll take them now. Otherwise, we can get right to some basketball stuff for the last, what do we got, about 40 minutes here, 35, 40 minutes. Does anybody got any questions on any of that stuff? All right, perfect. All right, let me get to basketball stuff. So, maybe. There we go. All right. Practice organization. To me, this is huge. I go back to high school, and I kind of picked a lot of this stuff up. I don't know if any of you know Vance Wahlberg. If you're interested in how we play, spread, dribble drive, all that, Vance Wahlberg is the guy. He's the one that kind of brought it in. And look, all you guys are great note takers. If you want to get this, I can just give you Adam's email, and he can send you this whole presentation instead of writing everything down. So maybe take a few notes or whatever, but I think it'd be easier if you just get a copy of this whole thing at the end. Otherwise, I got to fly through a bunch of this. Adam put this thing together for me. There's probably enough info here for me to go 2 hours. So I'm going to fly through a bunch of it, and you won't be able to take the notes. Just get it at the end. I'll give you his email, and you can get it. But when here's something else I'll tell you I did. As a high school coach, every single fall, me and Josh Baker, my assistant, we would either go to a NBA training camp, or we'd go to a college, like the first week they practice or weekend or whatever, or a lot of years we'd do both, because the NBA would start a few weeks before college, so we'd hit, one year I got working 5-star, I got cool with Brendan Brown, Hubie's son, we went down to Memphis, we went to Chicago, we were right there in Detroit, we went to the Pistons for a couple of different years, but we would go somewhere. Well, one year, I'd gotten to know Vance a little bit when he was at Fresno City. He sent me some DVDs of the way he played. We studied it a bunch. He got the job at Pepperdine. Me and Josh went out to California for the entire first week of their first practice, back when it started October 15th, and watched his first week of practice on the whole install, his dribble drive, all that stuff. And then we went back and we put it in. At Romulus, I put the defense, the offense. He pressed the whole time. I didn't like the defense. I still don't like it. We can get into all that later. It's when you press against really good guards and you open the floor up, it's a disaster in my opinion. We were 8-8 at Romulus, the worst record I had in any of my years there through 16 games. We quit pressing. I think we won like 92% of our games the next 6 years after that, when we just guarded people the right way. But the offensive side of it with Vance, and he's really high intellectual guy, and he'll tell you the whole defense, offense, the whole thing. I took a lot of the offense and I left the defense alone, but we were out there for a week and did that. So a lot of what I got even with this practice stuff I got from Vance when we went out there. So we got 2 even teams, sometimes not even. Sometimes you'll put your best player, and then you'll put your next 4 best players over here and see. And I had some guys at Romulus, you put Wes Clark with whoever, like he's going to make sure that he either wins the day or he's going to be right there with. But everything's super competitive. We found a way to literally make probably 90% of practice competitive, like crimson versus white at Alabama, blue versus white at Buffalo, whatever it is. So that's kind of how we just make everything. If you don't teach your guys to compete, then losing doesn't really have consequences, and there's consequences for losing and all this stuff, and we make it ultra competitive. Even now in the summer, when we've got summer workouts, it's going that way. And practice goes quick. So let me, all right, this is more on the practice stuff. Let me bust through some of this stuff. So game count, here's the one thing I will say. You got a winner and a loser on every drill or in every game. Sometimes you got 10-minute drill, you can get 2-3 games out of it. We play games to 8 usually. The loser owes us a 10-second sprint, and they got to make it in 10. The winner goes to the free throw line, makes a free throw. If they make the free throw, they get a win on the game count for the day. At the end of the day, you've got, like the other day, it was, what was it? So one team was 13 out of 13 at the free throw line, so they had 13 wins on the day. That was yesterday, actually, when I ran practice. The other team was 3 for 3 at the free throw line, so they only had 3 wins versus 13, so they had lost by 10, which is astronomical with how we do it. And then you got to run sprints at the end, and I'll get to how that goes. But like some days, one team will win 9 games and go like 5-9. The other team will go 7-7, and it's just a way to put pressure free throws in too, because you got to make the free throw to get the win. So I can go through all that stuff, but that's probably not what you're interested in. If you lose at the end, like if you lose by, let's say you lost by 10 games, so like there's more down here, but usually we don't go by this. So if you lose by like 3 games, you got to do this, this, and this. If you lose by 7, you got to do this, 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 this. Like you don't want to get your butt kicked in practice because there's a ton of running at the end of practice if you lose. Now, I'll let them shoot like free throws to like knock some of these off sometimes at the end of practice and all that if you come watch us. Speaking of coming and watching us, if anybody in here wants to watch a practice of ours, like literally just reach out. Like we're not hiding stuff. Like there's no high secret stuff outside of Richie. If Richie's still here, you can't come watch practice. But there he is. Everybody else is more than welcome to come watch practice. We just signed a 2-for-1 with them, which was stupid. You guys got screwed and should have beat Auburn last year at their place, so we got to actually go to their place. Did you beat Auburn last year? Yeah, you got screwed at the end. You got screwed at the end, didn't you? I was watching the game. Yeah, that was what it was the year before. But they're going to come twice. We got to go down to Mobile once. So that's not going to be good. So anyways, if you want to come watch practice, come watch it. So here's the other thing in practice. If you want to emphasize stuff, we just, in the games, we'll make it game, like we don't give up layups. Like when I got to Alabama, I had a coach reach out. I didn't even know it. I guess at Buffalo, we were number 1 in the country in transition defense, like not giving up transition points. Well, we play fast in practice. So he asked me what we do in transition D, drills and stuff. We don't do much. Just if you give up a layup, it's game over immediately. It doesn't matter. We're playing to 8. You're up 7-zip, and you give up a layup to the other team, like we just blow the whistle, game over. Like we don't give up layups, period. You sprint back, you contest. So like that's an everyday deal where it's game over on an uncontested layup. There we go. We get, again, our scoring system. I'm sure you read all the articles, or some of you, everybody wanted to make a big deal about our offense this year when we started winning. To be honest with you, our offense got a little bit better this year. We were 16-15 my first year at Alabama, like not that great. This year we finished 5th in the country, only high major team to win the regular season and the conference tournament both. And our offense got a little better. I think we were like 37th or 39th or something in KenPom. We were 30th this year. Our defense went from 114th to 3rd in the country. That's why we won games. Our defense got significantly better. All right, but everybody wants to write the articles about all the offense because we spread the floor and take a lot of threes and broke SEC records for points scored and threes and all this other stuff. But so if you haven't seen, like we've got a scoring, so we're number 1 in the country. I think the last 4 years, my last 2 at Buffalo, I've got some of that up here, the first 2 at Alabama, we've been top 10 in the country at not taking long twos. We don't take very many long twos. All right, so our scoring system, we got a 4-point line, 3-point line. We give you 2 for an at-the-rim 2, and anything in between the 3-pointer and an at-the-rim 2 is worth 1. So just one way to kind of emphasize shot selection, what we're looking for and all that. But different days, if you want to emphasize stuff, just make it +1 on different stuff. But let me get to the style play stuff. All right, here's the numbers. Again, I'm not going to go through a ton of this, but we play fast. So look, my 3rd year at Buffalo, my 4th year at Buffalo, my 1st year at Alabama, my 2nd year at Alabama. If you look, 4th in scoring, 5th in scoring, 3rd in scoring, 16th, but finished 5th in the country in both polls. And this was the best team I've had out of all 4 of these. This was a pretty dang good team at Buffalo too. But the reason we actually, and if you look, we actually got faster, average length of possession. So this is just offensive pace of play. 5th, 4th, 6th, 2nd, the fastest on offense, but 16th in scoring because our defense got way better this year, and it took the other teams a whole lot longer to, like our first year, teams scored on us real fast because we stunk on defense. We didn't have the right personnel to play the way we wanted. We were playing smaller guards. We got way better this year. We had a lot bigger guards all over the place, but we actually, our overall tempo went down a little bit, and our scoring points per game went down a little bit because our defense got better and took teams longer to score against us. So the game slowed down a little bit, even though our offensive pace of play went up. The other thing is, in transition, so if you look, like transition points per game, we were 1st in the country my last year at Buffalo. We've been somewhat up there. Our initial shot coming in the first 10 seconds, we were 1st this year. And then we get down here, like what type of shots do we take? So 3-pointers made per game, we were 2nd our 2 years at Alabama. 3-pointers taken per game, we were 1st and 3rd. Percentage of long 2-point jumpers, 7th, 6th, 10th in the country, 1st in the country this year. We don't take that many long twos. And that's something that comes up in recruiting. Some people try to use it against us because, you know, it's like part of every kid's game is they got a mid-range because they got a uncle that's their workout guy that, you know, tells them how many mid-range shots they got to take and all that. So here's what I'll say. We were 1st in the country at percentage of jumpers not being long twos. We still shot 12% of our shots being long twos. Okay, so that's still 1 out of every 8.5 shots. There's still a time and a place to take. I mean, if you're watching the NBA playoffs and they get into drop coverage, Chris Paul goes, 15 to 19 in one game or 14 to 19? Like, if you can make them at a high level, like, take them. All right, the whole thing with us is it's all about efficiency. So, like, if you're shooting, and again, I think the average in the NBA was like 37% on like a mid-range 2, a long 2. Well, 37% on a mid-range 2 is 0.74 points per possession. You're losing every single game. Your defense can't be that good. Okay, if you shoot 40% from 3, you're going to be at 1.2 points per possession. And with us, it's literally all about expected value on a shot. Okay, so if you're 40% from 3 and you're 1.2, you're going to win 95% of your games. Your defense is going to be good enough that if your offense is 1.2. If you go to the free throw line and get fouled and you shoot 75% at the free throw line, that's 1.5 points per possession. So if you look at shots in the order you want, free throws are 1, at the rim 2s are the second, 60% at the rim 2s, that's 1.2. Kick out 3s, like wide open kick out, those are like the 3rd best shot. I think we've got a system offensively that creates those 3, and that's what we're looking for. If you have to settle for something other than those 3, you know, a wide open mid-range ain't the worst. If you now, like we tell our guys, we chart everything. Like we're charting every shot. Is it off the dribble? Is it contested? Is it catch and shoot 3? Is it mid-range? Like, and then every guy has his own personal like shot analysis that we look at every week. So if you can make 50% of your long range 2s, then go ahead and shoot them. That's 1.0. Our defense can, we'll be in every game if our offense is 1.0. If you're shooting 30%, that's 0.6. Like, we can't have you shooting those. So we don't tell them they can't take them. We just kind of devalue them in our practices, and we show them the numbers after we got a bunch of numbers on it. So that's kind of where we're at with some of that stuff. All right, keys to playing fast. Let me get into some of this stuff. The fastest teams, the best offensive transition teams are great defensive teams. It's hard when you're taking the ball out of the net all the time. So we try to be great defensively. Even if we're not, we're still going to play fast. Like our first year at Alabama, we weren't very good defensively. You got to get you guys to sprint hard, and there's different levels of pace. Like I remember it was my second year at Buffalo, I believe. We went and played at Iowa State. And they were good that year, like really good. We got in the game and we thought we played fast. I mean, we did. I showed you the numbers. We played fast. It was a different level of fast when we played at Iowa State that year. It was when Hoiberg was still when they got out, and our guys weren't used to that pace. And we kind of said after that game, we ended up making it close there in the middle of the second half after we kind of got kicked in the teeth to start. But you can learn, you go against somebody, like when teams play us the first time this year, they thought maybe they played fast. They didn't play as fast as we played. There's different levels to it. If you want to play, you got to get you guys to sprint hard. And you got to hit the ball ahead, get it to playmakers. Here's what we're trying to do, though. We're trying to get a paint touch in the first 6 seconds of the shot clock. All right, so if we look at this in transition, so our first year at Alabama, our second year, if we didn't get a paint touch and we shot, so this basically be like, you kick it ahead and shoot a 3 in transition, you didn't hit the paint. Okay, if we didn't hit the paint in transition, our first year we were 0.8. This year we were 0.68 points per possession. Those are bad numbers. All right, I'm not saying that we don't shoot like we do. Like if you got an open 3 in transition, we encourage our guys to take it. But again, if you can get a paint touch, we're better off. So if you get one paint touch, you can see we're right at about 1.2. If you got a second paint touch, you drive the paint, kicked it, drove it again, we were up over 1.5 both years. All right, in the half court, so that's transition. Here's the numbers. No paint touch, get 1 paint touch, 2 paint touches. Actually, you don't get a ton of 3+, and there's a good chance you turn it over. That's why it went down our first year here. It actually went up here, but the sample size is so small there. The point is get at least 1 paint touch if you can. All right, if you get the second one, it'll go up a little bit, but the biggest jump is from 0 to 1. Same here, 0 to 1, the biggest jump. Then there's a smaller jump to get a second paint touch. But we're trying to get a paint touch and keep the floor spread. All right, I kind of went through this. Let me buzz through some of this stuff. All right, court terms. So if you watch us play, and again, we adjust every year, and I'll give you the adjustment we made this year. Well, there's a few adjustments. I think if you just keep doing the same thing every year, people figure it out. So for those of you that don't like to watch the NBA, you better start to watch the NBA because they're always a little bit ahead of everybody because they don't have to worry about recruiting, academics. They just coach basketball. So that's why I go to an NBA training camp every year. I watch a ton of NBA stuff. We will break down all 30 NBA teams and what they did every offseason, pick out the best stuff everyone's doing. But either, or if you're, you study something because you got to get better. So a few years ago, we studied Houston heavy back when D'Antoni was still there. So we just called it the Houston spot. So when they'd bring the ball, when Harden would bring the ball up here, they would literally, they'd run a drag most of the time. This guy didn't space to here. He literally was almost on the sideline. If you watch them play, that's how much they spaced the floor. So we just call it the Houston spot. So if we bring the ball up here, we're not going to bring the ball up like this, okay? If we bring the ball up over here, we're going to be spaced here. If we're 5 out, we will have a trail big here sometimes. And I'll get to, we call it our slide space we picked up from how the Bucks played. But we literally, if we're in a drag, we'd have ball, drag, next guy's way over here, and 2 corners filled. And then we can kind of get into some other stuff. And then when we get to 5 out spacing, this is the 5 out. And I'll say this, when you talk about spacing, the best, and this is where Walbury's really good at this stuff, the most space you can get on the, if you talk about 5 out, 4 out, 1 in, or 3 out, 2 in, those are basically the only 3 ways you're going to go. The most space you can get on the perimeter is what? It's 3 out, 2 in. okay, because you got the biggest gaps with only 3 out there. The problem is 3 out, 2 in, you can never get to the rim because you've got 1 big here, 1 big here, or you got 2 bigs in the lane, right? So the best combination of all of it is probably 4 out, 1 in. The NBA's gone to a lot of 5 out. So if you go to 5 out and get guys moving, and you get different guys as the 1 in, like that's kind of where we've gone to. It's not always our big in the dunkers, and we've got some film to show you. That's something we started doing extensively this year, where literally and we stole it from the Bucks. The last training camp I went to was the Bucks because you couldn't go to any this year with the COVID. So the year before I was in Milwaukee, the year before that I was in Boston. But I like to watch the Bucks play. We had a kid, Herb Jones, that was SEC Player of the Year. Kind of plays like he's not Giannis because he's more like 6'8", not 7 foot, but he didn't shoot it great. He got downhill all the time. We had centers that could shoot a little bit like Lopez. We spaced. So here's what they did. The first guy down the floor slid into the dunkers. This guy slid here, and he slid here because Giannis would like to bring the ball up more in the middle a lot. So if he's in the middle of the floor and you slide everybody around, then he's got enough space on each side and can kind of play. And they started doing a lot of that. We just call it slide. Everybody just slides one spot. And so what you ended up with a lot was you had a guard down here, like X3 would be protecting the rim. So like when we played Kentucky and they had Isaiah Jackson, he's X5 guarding your 5. I think I got a slide with our slide spacing here. You could get here it is, perfect. We didn't want this most of the time. Now, if you've got a traditional big that can't shoot, you got to go to this most of the time. All right, but if you got a big that can shoot, like we did, we had 2 of them. We wanted our 5 either here or here, so that X5 was having to guard on the perimeter here or on the perimeter there. We didn't want him protecting the rim, and we didn't want him really being the smash down guy. So ideally, we'd get our 5s that could space to pull Isaiah Jackson or whoever they had, if you got like rim protecting 5s, away from the rim and leave guards trying to protect the rim with a ton of space out. And I'll get to it in a second here. We've got some, we're running out of time. I'm going to skip all these drills. All right, I'm going to get to some game footage of how we played. But all of our drills play into how we play, like with the floor space and everything. So we do penetrate and kick shooting, penetrate and kick one more. If you've seen any of my other stuff, we do this 2-on-1 shooting drill to get to where they play the 2-on-1 on the backside great. Then we go to 3-on-2. And this is practice footage. Again, I can have Adam send you all this. Let me show you a little bit of game. So this is our 2-on-1 shooting drill. So we do a drill where coach throws it to you. You got one guy on defense. If you don't get guarded, you shoot it. If he guards you, you make the one more. We get tons of 2-on-1s, and they got to be able to play the 2-on-1 like fast. And we call it, so again, like you see, this guy was stunning. Well, Reese has played enough 2-on-1s to know if he's not fully committed, you're shooting a shot. So again, now we're just playing off a simple drag, kickback, playing the 2-on-1. Again, though, you see how quickly the ball's moving? Here's our deal. Once we force the first closeout, and this is it right here. So this kid's guarding Reese. He's got to close out. Once you force the first closeout, we're in our .5 game. You've got a half a second to decide whether you're going to shoot, go one more, or drive the ball to the rim. That's it. So once we force one closeout, we feel like you can't guard us because you can't. He's going to close out, and we're going to keep the ball moving so fast, and it's going to be drive, kick, and we're going to get an open layup or an open 3 off it in the next like 5 seconds, we feel. So we're literally just trying to get one closeout to happen. See, there's the one more, and then we're going to take every open 3 we can get. So again, there's the one closeout we force. Now we're playing 2-on-1 basketball, one more, wide open 3. So there's plenty I can get into here. Again, so we work on, again, you see there's tons of freedom and everybody's outside the 3. Like we drive, we would call this a slot skip. There's another one more. And then we work on that stuff in shooting drills. That's a baseline drive, and we do all these blood drills where we work on making these reads. That's a slot skip. We work on that in our penetrating kick shooting. And there's, a tab. There was a one more for an open 3. So again, sometimes the closeout's super easy. I mean, they're sucked in, we skip it, we force one closeout, we beats them, force another one, ball's moving, that's how we play. Like, we don't overcomplicate things. We've got a ton of sets in to run after timeouts, and we attack a mismatch to get a closeout, but they're all real quick hitters. We have zero continuity, like we run no continuities. It's all the floor space, and we're trying to drive, kick, draw people. But you see, I mean, so again, floor space, he draws, get the one closeout, we attack it. You see that nobody's holding the ball for longer than a half a second. That, like, once you force the first closeout, you've got a half a second to make up your mind. If you're not going to drill it, though, you can't play it. Here's the other thing I'll say. So Kyra was a lottery pick after our first year. He got really good. Like, if every time you drive, you got to come to a 2-foot jump stop and put 2 hands on every pass, you can't play the way we play. Like, you're going to have to play off 1 foot. You watch the NBA, there's a time and a place to come to a 2-foot jump stop. But if you make your guys do it every time, you can't play fast. Like, they got to be athletic. They got to be able to play off 1 foot. You got to be able to make one-hand passes. Like, when Kyra comes down like this, he can take it with his left hand and throw a wraparound pass, like off the dribble with one hand. Like, again, it's stuff we work on. But if you're going to play fast, attacking downhill, you got to work on passing the ball too. So, again, this would be like a blood drill we run, like a corner drive with a closeout. So, like, the coach will kick it right here. And here's how we create all these, because we work on every possible situation where you're going to attack a closeout. We work on it and making the reads. All right, so, and here's how we do it. We make the defender hold this right here. You got to put your foot on the lane line. And here's what we say. You can't move until the coach releases the ball. When he releases it, you got to close out. If the offensive guy hits the 3, it's game over immediately. Like, it's 0-0, first pass, they hit the 3, it's game over. We play all the games to 8. So that means he's got to close out hard as can be to take him off the three-point line, or it's game over. If your offensive guys can't beat a guy closing out that hard, like, they can't play for us, okay, if you want to play like this. So he closes out, you beat the closeout, and now you make the reads. So he's driving, he's teeing up, and we start with 3-on-3, and then we'll go build the 4-on-4. So on this, your reads are real easy. Every time you drive to score. That's your first option every single time. You don't do anything else until the defense stops you from scoring your own layup. Once they take away your layup, so if X5 takes away his layup, your next read is right here. If X2 takes this away, you throw the baseline drift. So you either got a layup, a tee-up, or a baseline drift. That's it. Then we'll throw the 4th guy in. You know, let's say that 3 is up here. If X3 smashes down to take away the drift, now you throw the slot skip. And then we'll play off a corner closeout both sides, 3-on-3, 4-on-4. We'll play off a shake, off a drag, pick and roll. We'll play off a nail pitch where you're coming off a drag. The guy's holding the nail. He's closing out here where we pitch it out. Just every possible closeout situation you can come up with, we do these blood drills with them. And so the guys get used to attacking, making reads, getting the ball moving and all that stuff. So I literally, Adam put enough stuff in here that I could probably talk for like 2 hours, so I got to rush through it a little bit. But you'll have an idea how we play here by the end. So again, this is this summer. This kid's, some of you Atlanta guys know, Jason Holt, he's figuring it out. All right, he's new. All right, he didn't close hard enough. Darius hits it, like, that's game over. All right, you see the score up here at 0-0, like they just lost the game. We're playing to 8, like Jason's team just lost because he didn't run them off the line and take it away. So that's how you get your guys to attack closeouts. Okay, so now he's going to close. Now we're attacking the closeout, making the read, the baseline drift. You just got, that's Quinterly, who's been with us for 2 years now, and he knows how to make all these reads. I mean, he's great at it. Again, we're attacking. That's the 4-on-4. That's the one more. So that's the practice stuff. You kind of see how we work on that stuff, and it goes. So now it's like the game stuff, right? So again, corner closeout. If they don't close hard enough, you shoot the 3. You don't close hard enough, you shoot the 3. Now, they close hard enough. Now you're attacking. Now you're making reads. Again, you get the layup first. You always take the layup on every drive until they stop it. Again, Kyra, Here's the other thing I'm going to say. You notice our guys, like the whole catch, I mean, this is Kyra, right? He was lottery pick for the Pelicans. He's playing off the ball. We don't have one point guard. Okay, he's a lottery pick point guard, and you see that he's in the corner. Like, we have ideally 5 guys out there that can pass, dribble, and shoot, and the ball moves and everybody makes plays. All right, when you get it, the catch, jab, triple threat, all the old school trainer stuff that everybody, like, that's gone. Like, we don't have any of that. Like, you're going on catch. You see Kyra's like already gone. Like, the jabbing and all that stuff lets the defense shrink back in, recover. Shouldn't say everybody, a lot of teams are running packed defense. If you're going to catch and hold, it's going to get real packed in every single time, and it's going to be hard to drive it. So you see Kyra's already driving before he even catches it, and he's at the rim scoring a layup. Again, here's another one. Kick down, drive, baseline drift, open 3. And again, this kid, Shackelford, is a left-handed kid throwing a one-hand, right-handed, and we teach this, like jump out of bounds, throw it around the defense. Like, that's how you get, I mean, that's why we're number 1 or number 2 in the country in threes made, because we drive it, collapse everybody, throw it, and we take threes as often as we can get kick-out threes. All right, so here's another blood drill with like the nail pitch. So again, if you're going to run drags, the coach comes off the drag, X1 holds the nail, we throw it. This guy can't move until the coach throws it. If you give up the 3, it's game over. You force the closeout. He attacks the closeout, and then he makes the reads. So again, you can come up with, and again, your offense doesn't have to look exactly like ours, but if you want to work on drive and kick game, then you better work on attacking closeouts and making reads. And that's how we work on attacking closeouts and making reads. So again, so there, coach goes off. This is just a quick 3-on-3. If he gives a 3 up, it's game. He gave it up. He's got to run him off harder. That was game over on that. And again, if you look up here, this is the exact, so like guests are always red, crimson, white's always home. So you look at the scoreboard, red's up 7-zip, okay? And they lost the game going to 8 because he gives up the 3 because he doesn't take it out. So he just lost even though they were up 7-zip. So now again, so now you're going to take it away. Now you see Herb's already going on catch. Like, to me, it's impossible to close out and stop a guy that's going on the catch already and he's moving. But again, you got to work on all that if you're going to be good. That was the SEC Player of the Year, Herb Jones. He's pretty good. He made 1 3 his junior year for us. That's it. He made more this year. He still wasn't a great shooter. He made enough to keep people honest. He was SEC Player of the Year because he got good at all this other stuff. So here's another drag. That's a nail pitch. We're going on catch. He made the read. Again, they got to be able to make the reads. And you start it simple, 3-on-3, work up to 4-on-4, and then they get good at it in 5-on-5. So again, here's another one. Come off the nail pitch, throw it, attacking, go on catch. That's Herb on a slash. We haven't even got into like the slash action because, again, like Herb wasn't a great shooter his junior year, so he got great at slashing. We found him on the slash. He's at the rim. So let me get to some game footage with some of this stuff here. Hold on. Again, so this, if you noticed before on the nail pitch, we had this guy over here in this corner, and we'll move the guys on the 3-on-3 back and forth so they get all different types of reads. But again, we're making reads on that stuff. So there's your drag, nail pitch. That's Herb. He hits the 3 on that one. That was this year when he shot a little better. Nail pitch, hits the 3. Now when they start, or he missed that one. Again, that's our center. Like, ideally, we like for our bigs to be able to play. But again, you see him going on catch. Like, X5s can't guard the ball, closing out like that. Like, they're just impossible, like traditional 5s. So then lane's open, he's driving a score. Again, so we get to switch. Again, he's going on catch. And we got the guy down in the dunkers. So, all right, so now here's an open. So we call it open when we've got nobody in this corner, right? So now we've got an open drag. Ideally, we'd rather have the open drags down here so you got more space. But when we play off an open and you've got a loaded side, we'll call this a loaded side. We always want to slash the middle guy to open up space. or he can screen in if you got shooters out here. All right, so that's what we're looking to do on that. So again, we're going to drill it. So again, here's our blood drill. We throw it back to the big pop-in, and then he's playing off it. And again, your bigs, if you're going to play the way we play, your bigs have to be able to make these reads too. Now, your guards can run it too, because we'll run like opens with a ghost action where you fake the screen and get out, two guard. You'll see a lot of that. You know, the NBA is doing a lot more of that guard, pick and roll, and they ghost out because most of them will be switches. So that's where, like, Jason's a freshman. You see we slashed it, and they're getting used to making these reads. So again, so here's an open, throw it back to our big. They don't close out. We shoot the three, and that's what we tell our guys. Every catch is a shot until they take it away. Now they close out. You saw we slashed Herb on the loaded side. See, Herb's in the middle. So we're slashing that. We've got the 2-on-1. That's our Reese is our center. He knows how to play off the dribble because we've drilled it with him the whole time, and we get an open three. So now we play off the open and we throw it ahead. We don't throw it back. Now we slash him. Again, you got to close out and take the three away. It's game over. Now we throw it ahead. We slash off it. Create. He's driving the ball. That's our freshman, J.D. Davidson. It's pretty good. So now throw it ahead. We slash. One more, open three. You kind of get an idea of how we play, right? So open, slash, throw it ahead, open three. That slash took the MIG's help with him when he went. And that's it. So I'm perfect. 5:58. I didn't leave enough time for questions, but if you want to leave at 6, you're more than welcome to. I won't be offended. If you want to stay and ask questions, I'll stay here as long as you want, and I can answer questions. But I know I raced through it, but I was a teacher, so I could get through lesson plans quick too. So because then I'd have to sit down and do video, get through the lesson plan quick so I could break down video. But all right, right here.
High school, Mississippi. Kind of got like 2 questions. The first one is, how much time do you all spend in practice, like on shooting drills each day? And then is it important, you hear so much where guys always refer to guys as he's a 3-level scorer. He can shoot the three, the mid-range, he can get to the rack with, with not a lot of emphasis on the mid-range jumper as much anymore. Is that, even necessary for a guy to be able to shoot?
Okay, the first, how much shooting do we do? We'll always do like some shooting drills to warm practice up, and we try to make them like our penetrating kick that go with how we want to play. But we try to get most of the bulk shooting in outside of practice time. So they come in, shoot on the gun, shoot with managers, GAs. Like if every kid ain't in the gym close to an hour on his own, between 40 minutes and an hour, he's not gonna play for us. So we'll warm them up with some ball handling and shooting early practice to get them going before we start doing live stuff. After that, most of the shooting's done, like especially in the summer, because I only get 4 hours a week with them. My 4 hours is going to be spent doing like the read stuff. Like they got to learn how to make reads. I got to set up drills that they can make reads. So if you're just going to come in and do catch and shooting, which you should a ton because you got to make open shots, we're going to do that outside of when I can be with you. We're going to do it with managers, GAs, all that. So when I was a high school coach, we had 0 guns when we got there. When I left, we had 6 guns. I would come in at 6 a.m., we'd set them up, and guys would just shoot. And you got to be able to make shots. So, but when I'm with them, like at practice in the afternoon, in high school, we're going to do more drills where they got to make reads and stuff. And then the 3-level scoring, there's definitely a time and a place for mid-range twos. We're going to try to make that our 4th option. We're going to get to the free throw line. We're going to get at the rim twos, kick out threes. We're even going to get slide dribble threes. But, if you come off a pick and roll and somebody wants to play drop coverage on you, and that's what you're left with, you got to be able to make it. Like Quinterly can make it for us, Keon Ellis, Shackelford can ain't. Like if you can make a high enough percentage of them, and we've charted it, like you go ahead and shoot them. But we're not hunting. We're not ever drawing a play up to get a mid-range 2 out of the play, if that makes sense. If you have to settle for it because they took away everything else, and you settle for it, mid-clock, then I'm all right with it as long as it's open and it's a decent shooter. Does that make sense?
Got time for one more question.
Ryan Strom, Huntington University. What changes did you make?
Kind of hard, for only 2 questions.
All right, time for two more questions.
Go ahead.
What changes did you make defensively from year 1 to year 2 to improve, and then what do you chart defensively?
The biggest changes we did is we got rid of all the guys that couldn't guard, and we brought in, we put this like Richie does. We just like reloaded the roster, like we but that's really probably the most honest answer I can give you. Like the way we play, we got to play a lot of guards. Our first year we had a lot of small guards. You try to play high major basketball where you put in 5'10", 6'1", 6'1", and at the 1, 2, 3, and a 6'5", 170 pounder at the 4, like. Because you're trying to play guards, it's not going to go well. But we still were going to play the way we played. I mean, we can't play with 2 traditional centers. It just doesn't work with how we want to play. So this year, Primo's 6'6", Herb Jones 6'7", 6'8", Keanu 6'5", long and athletic. Like we got a bunch of long athletic guards that can switch everything, and our personnel got way better, and we got way better. So I know as coaches in here, especially if you're a high school coach, it's probably not a great answer to hear because you can't just flip your personnel out every year. But I will say this. We were always, when I was a high school coach, we were always one of the better defensive teams. I think you can emphasize team. Here's one thing I'll give you if you're a high school coach or even some of you college coaches. When I got comfortable enough with my assistant to handle the offense, and I 100% coach defense every day in practice, they knew it was really important. And that's the way we did it for my last few years at Romulus. Josh ran the offense, even though I really ran it because I sat down and met with him a bunch. But I fully went all in on coaching the defense every day in practice. Then they know it's really important if the head coach coaches it. And then you're all over everything. What do we chart on defense? So I've got Charlie, my more X and O's assistant that came from the NBA, runs the defense. Petway runs the offense, and I spend a little more time with Petway on the offense. Charlie does a decent job charting a lot of stuff, but the same stuff we chart on offense, we'll chart on defense. Like how at the rims, like are we giving up too many at the rims? Are we giving up too many uncontested threes, contested versus uncontested? In game, we got this whole blue collar points thing, which I haven't even got into, but deflections, charge it, like everything that's blue collar, like we chart, and we talk about deflections all the time. Every 4-minute media timeout, we've got a whole blue collar sheet, like who had the most blue collar points, how many deflections do we have, do we have more blue collar points than our opponents had, and we talk about it every 4-minute timeout. So I think that helps with the defense some too. Hold on, he was there, and then I got one here, and then Farrell's going to kick us all out of here.
Coach Travis Lewis, Toledo Line. Traveling, how much is traveling an issue when you catching up?
0. Like literally, here's where he travels. The ball comes this way, and you start to jab this way and then decide to come back this way. They're calling that a travel like 95% of the time, even if you don't. Or if you catch it this way and you jab and you go like this, if you jab one way and go the other way, they're calling that a travel like 95% of the time. If all you do is catch and just go, even if you do travel, it happens so fast they hardly ever call it. Like to go on catch, like that almost eliminated all the travels. The guys that want to do triple threat, like the ball comes this way and we're going to jab this way and come back this way. I mean, you can work on it all this. Most of the time it goes like this, and then you pick this up. And even if you don't pick it up, the ref thinks you picked it up and call a travel on it. So like jab and go the other way, that's getting called a travel. Just catch and gone, like it hardly ever got called. I mean, you saw Herb, he probably traveled a few times, but they don't call it. Like it happens so fast and he's gone and the play happened and it's over and they got to make a call at the rim because there was probably a foul or something and it doesn't get called that much.
Hey, Alex Ulrich from Central High School, Wisconsin.
There's my home state right there.
Yeah, small world. For your time as a teacher, is there like anything that you took from what you learned as a teacher that you took over?
It's a good question. So I actually taught for 15 years. I taught stats labs at the University of Wisconsin in their kinesiology department. I taught at Watertown High School, and then I taught 11 years. Look, I'll say this. Like, I think there's a book called Tools for Teaching that actually, it's actually a decent book. It's all about teaching, but you can use it for your practices. I got it from another coach. I think, like, if you're not organized for practice, like at a high level, Like if you're not organized for your class, it's going to be chaos. If you're not organized for practice, you're wasting all of your players' time and your assistants. And you're like that's the other thing. Hit Bowman up. He's on our website. I can get you his email. Just look him up on the website. It's easy. Like we've got a practice template for like be super organized, be ready for your day. That's the biggest things I got out of teaching. When you're not organized, now you got discipline problems. When you're not organized in coaching, now you got all kinds of other problems too. So I'd get your whole year organized. I'd get your whole day organized. Like everything's got to be super organized.
You guys invite like
High school kids in here too. That's I like it. So New York, Wisconsin, 2 of the 3 places I lived before I went to Alabama.
How do you get, what's your rebounding scheme? Like you still get defensive boards, but still get out.
Like our defensive rebounding scheme, we're not real complicated. Like everybody has to rebound, all 5 guys, and then we just drill it. Like as soon as we have the ball, as fast as we play, like we are gone. And we've got X's on the floor. I didn't go through all of our court markings and all that, but we've got X's on the. You know what? You can probably, matter of fact, hold on. If we go to, we've got to get a practice. See, we got all these blue lines on the floor. So you can see it right over here a little bit. There's an X right there. If you don't have the ball, you got to get outside that X. Or if you're not the trail spot. So like when we had the 5 out, the ball and the trail spot, all 3 other guys got to get outside that X. And that X is literally like a foot from the out of bounds line because we want everybody to be super wide. But we don't have no rebounding scheme. Like all 5 guys rebound every time. We're going to call game over. And we're not a terrible rebounding team. We were better this year. I think at Buffalo we were a lot better. We've been decent enough rebounding to get out and transition. No, do we got to stop? Is that it?
Yeah, we probably got to call it quits.
All right.
But everybody, real quick before Coach Oats is done, Adam Bowman's cell phone number, the guy he keeps talking about the whole time. BAUMAN.
the cell phone number? I didn't know that. That's all right.
You want cell phone or
Give
email?
it out. Go ahead, give it out.
All right, we'll go email.
Blast them with all kinds of texts and stuff. It'd be good for them.
It would be good because everyone texts. The email address is BAUMAN, so A Bowman at ia.ua.edu. A Bowman at ia.ua.edu.
Don't DM me like you do Richie, because I ain't answering you. I take all that social media off my phone.
Like months on end sometimes. Hit Bowman up and he'll get a hold of me. I'm not as good with all that as Richie is.
Coach, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Did I race through too much? Was it too fast?
Guys, we're going to get started at 6:15. So if you guys want to take about a 5-minute break quickly, use the restroom and come right back in here.